Government regulations. It's also important that you stay abreast of pertinent government regulations. Each country has different regulations. So if you're doing business outside the U.S., you'll want to make sure that you know which rules and regulations apply to you in those countries. Consult a local legal counsel. You can also ask your legal counsel and local partners. In the United States, there are a few leading regulations to keep in mind. The Telephone Communication Protection Act. The TCPA was passed by Congress in 1991 and updated in October 2013. The TCPA generally applies to telephone solicitations and other calls made to phone numbers, including wireless numbers. The FCC has noted that the law encompasses both voice and text calls to wireless numbers, including SMS messages. One of the things that the TCPA prohibits is the use of auto-dialers, computers, that call phone numbers instead of human beings, without prior written consent. Without getting into all the legal mumbo-jumbo, the TCPA's application to text messages gets pretty convoluted. To be on the safe side, don't send unsolicited text messages. That means you must get an opt-in before you send anyone a text message. The CAN-SPAM Act. The CAN-SPAM Act is a U.S. federal statute that regulates the sending of commercial electronic mail, i.e. email. Electronic mail messages under the CAN-SPAM Act include email and other electronic messages sent through social networking sites, but does not include text messages. Basically, CAN-SPAM says that you can send anyone you want an email as often as you want, unless and until they tell you to stop. In order to comply with CAN-SPAM, your commercial electronic messages, i.e. email, must satisfy 5 criteria. The message must have an accurate from line. You can't deceive the recipient as to who the email is from. The message must have an accurate subject line. You can't generically say interesting offer for you when the body in the message advertises discounted products and services that may not be appropriate for your audience. The message must include the physical address of the sender. The message must contain an automated opt-out mechanism, such as a link at the bottom of the message that they can click on to opt out of your message. The message may not be sent to anyone who opted out of receiving your message from the sender more than 10 days earlier. And as we discussed earlier in this course, mobile is now email and email is now mobile, with the majority of emails being opened up on a mobile device. So it is critically important that you adhere to the CAN-SPAM Act regulations. HIPAA. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act gives privacy rights to individuals on how their personal information can be handled within the healthcare industry. So if you're involved in the healthcare industry, you have to follow the HIPAA-compliant regulations. And it can be pretty tricky with mobile. Be sure to consult with your counsel. COPPA, the Children Online Privacy and Protection Act. Children, those under the age of 13 and younger, use mobile phones too, and you must be very careful when marketing to them. In the United States, rules for marketing to children are clearly spelled out by the COPPA, which you can find online. The Act clearly outlines how and when you can engage children, as well as the rules about gathering their personal information and gaining parental consent. Sweepstakes laws. Every state has their own rules and regulations around running sweepstakes and contests. Leading agencies, like Hello World, can help you get the entry rules and terms and conditions right, so you don't end up getting sued. Do not call registry. On October 1st, 2003, the FTC gave consumers a choice about receiving most telemarketing calls by developing the National Do Not Call Registry. Consumers can register their home and mobile phone numbers with the Do Not Call Registry. Most marketers are forbidden to place telemarketing calls to any phone number listed in the registry, but some exceptions exist, such as political organizations, charities, telephone surveys, and companies that have pre-established business relationship with the consumer. Marketers are required to check the registry at least once every 31 days to clean their internal lists. There are other laws and regulations, like the telephone sales rule, regional and state sweepstakes laws, as noted, and a number of privacy and data regulations that are actively being looked at by government today. Do everything you can to comply with these rules. If you don't, you risk being sanctioned by the regulatory body and/or sued, which can cost you a lot of time, money, and industry reputation. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to industry best practices, guidelines, and regulations. Here's my parting advice. Don't be scared of them. Embrace them. Read the documents and learn. If you don't understand them, ask the authors or publishing organization for clarification. That is what they're there for. If you're really passionate about one issue or another, again, don't sit idle on the sidelines. Get involved. Join or even form a relevant industry organization yourself and start influencing, refining, framing, and developing the best practices, guidelines, and standards, laws, and regulations that most impact your business and your customers. Take it from my personal experience. It's a lot of work, but you won't be sorry.